Provost and Deputy Vice-Chancellor, as public orator, may I, Dr. Sarah Lee, present Khudeja Amer Sharif, a candidate for an honorary degree. Not everyone here today will have heard of the Shamar Women's Centre in Leicester, yet it's been instrumental in empowering thousands of, in particular, British, Asian and minority ethnic women to overcome social, economic and cultural barriers. Khudeja joined the centre in 2012, just for a few weeks initially to help them out. 14 years later, she's still there at the heart of the centre as its CEO. Khudeja is one of 5 children born to her parents who settled in Nottingham after leaving their home in Kashmir behind. At the age of 4, when she started at school, she was determined to be able to read her older brother's books, despite English not being spoken at home. A serious road accident at the age of 7 saw her in hospital for almost a year and meant that she had to learn how to walk again. That resilience and determination have remained with her throughout her life. As the eldest daughter, there were certain expectations. She was expected to cook for the family, and at the age of 11 was a carer for her mother, acting as a translator at hospital appointments. She had little time for homework, but she made sure that she found the time, often studying by candlelight until the early hours of the morning. At secondary school, she was the only Muslim Asian girl and experienced racism, but that didn't stop her. She excelled and left school with 9 GCSEs and 3 A-levels. She was desperate to train as a doctor at university, but it wasn't possible. Girls weren't allowed to do that. So, in keeping with tradition, she entered into an arranged marriage at the age of 19 and had 3 wonderful children. Khudeja brought up her children as a single parent after fleeing her marital home. We're delighted to welcome members of her family here today, and I know she'll talk to you a little more about her background and family in a moment. As a single mother, she built a successful career in corporate banking, and by studying and gaining professional qualifications from home, she progressed into management roles. But not content with that, Khudeja established her own consultancy and quickly discovered a talent for grant writing. Her funding application secured £1.5 million to establish training centres that created employment opportunities for hundreds of people from some of the most deprived communities in the region. Word by this time had spread, so she was invited to take on advisory roles for the Office for National Statistics and the Department for Work and Pensions. She was able to advocate for disadvantaged communities and advise employers. Employment rates of ethnic minority job seekers increased. And she became the national face of diversity for the census campaign in 2011. Leicester achieved one of the highest census response rates from marginalised communities in the country. Before this, Leicester had one of the lowest completion rates. Once her children left home, you might think that Khudeja would value some more free time. But no, she went back to study and completed her MBA, gaining a distinction in 2012. And at 57, she was the oldest student there. In February 2012, she started work at the Shamar Women's Centre in Leicester. At that time, the centre faced closure, but her grant writing skills have come in handy, and since she joined, more than £3 million of funding have benefited the centre. Over 20,000 women, mainly Black, Asian and minority ethnic women of Leicester, but increasingly refugees and asylum seekers, have been able to develop their self-confidence, language and employability skills and improve their health and well-being. We don't have time today to see all the wonderful initiatives that have been spearheaded and overseen by Khudeja, but some stand out. The Bereavement to Achievement mental health service, which supports and helps women to overcome bereavement, as there were no culturally appropriate services available. A programme that empowered volunteers to teach basic English to isolated women. Many of those volunteers have since become qualified teachers, tutors and professionals. Working with the NHS to ensure the support of non-English speaking women on hospital stays and putting measures in place to make sure that women attend antenatal appointments. Numerous advocacy programmes that have trained hundreds of volunteers to support vulnerable women facing abuse and workplace exploitation. Partnerships with, for example, the University of Leicester law students have enabled free legal clinics for those unable to access legal support elsewhere. During the COVID pandemic, Khudeja ensured that Shamar remained open to those who needed it. Users continue to receive emotional, practical, and welfare support during one of the most difficult periods in recent history. This work earned Shamar the Leicestershire Charity of the Year Award, and in 2025, the Centre proudly accepted the King's Award for Voluntary Service. Khudeja's story is one of extraordinary resilience, compassion, and determination. Her childhood was far from easy. She's overcome discrimination and personal hardship to become a nationally recognised leader, advocate, and champion for disadvantaged communities. Khudeja has said that the key to success and impact is listening, and that's what she's done. Through her vision, leadership, and unwavering commitment to social justice, she's transformed thousands of lives and inspired countless others to believe that barriers can be overcome and dreams can be achieved. She really is a citizen of change. Provost and Deputy Vice-Chancellor, on the recommendation of the Senate and the Council, I present Khudeja Amer Sharif that you may confer upon her the honorary degree of Doctor of Laws.
Provost, Pro-Vice-Chancellor and Chair of Council, distinguished guests and graduates, I feel extremely humbled to be standing here today. The last time I was here was a year ago as a special guest, and prior to that when my daughter graduated in a Masters in Criminology. But I'm also very fortunate I have a grandson who's studying engineering here, and another one who's just applied to do so. So I do hope to be back in the audience in the future. However, today I want to thank you for this prestigious award. I'm honoured and humbled to accept this degree from the University of Leicester, an establishment renowned for its accomplishments and pioneers in multiple disciplines. I stand here today still in shock, disbelief and gratitude. Receiving this award today gave me the opportunity to reflect on how I, a young Asian Muslim girl, born in the mid-50s in a deprived area of Nottingham, into home where there was culturally low education expectations for girls, as was the norm for generations from where my parents came from in the villages of Kashmir, is standing here today receiving this award. Growing up in two cultures was confusing for me. At home there were cultural restrictions, where I could go, what I could do, and school, for the best part of my school career, I was the only Asian pupil and often faced discrimination from fellow pupils and some staff at secondary school. I recall for 6 months I wasn't served lunch and called racist names at the table at lunchtime. The truth is, I did feel different growing up. I didn't completely identify with my home culture or with the girls at school. I was from a new generation, first born in the UK. At the age of 4, I was very determined to read. I'd sneak into my older brother's bedroom and try and read his study books and get really frustrated when I couldn't do that. I was delighted when he took me to the library and brought me my first library book. And I still recall it was a hardback, plain book with one illustration, and I mastered reading it within 3 weeks. And my brother was so proud of me. I have him to thank for instilling that passion for education at a very young age, but sadly he passed away a few years ago. At the age of 11, my mother became very ill, and I took on a caregiver role. Being the eldest daughter, I was expected to cook and clean for the rest of the family, and being a girl, there was little time to study or revise, but I worked around my chores, and I would study till 1 o'clock in the morning with a candle or oil lamp and with a paraffin heater in the winter and suffering from chilblains because there was no central heating. My mother, although not educated, had the highest moral values and taught me patience and sincerity in everything I do in life. And my father worked very hard. He worked in the factory at night, and during the day he ran a business, a shop. I'm so thankful for them both for instilling such high morals and work ethics. At secondary school, I was determined to do well. I worked very, very hard and came top in every single subject every single year and got the top GCE award, and I did my A-levels. But that wasn't celebrated at home. I was a girl. Girls were expected to get married and have babies by the age of 16. But I wanted to do more with my life. I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to go to Oxford University. My brother told me it was a good university, but I would dream about it. But I knew girls weren't allowed to study away from home. And I know that's changed now, thankfully. I suppose the idea of wanting to be a doctor stemmed from a family friend, a retired nurse who gave me a medical encyclopedias at the age of 9, and I read them from back to back. And I recall diagnosing my younger sister's symptoms as yellow fever and told her there was no cure, and had her in tears. And I think after that, members of the family didn't come to me for medical advice. I experienced, having done my A-levels, I was really delighted because I got offered a place at Warwick University, unconditional offer for biochemistry. I could commute there, it's great, but unfortunately, elders in the community put pressure on my father to marry me off in an arranged marriage, and sadly and reluctantly, he succumbed to that. And it was the first time ever I'd seen my father cry. He knew that I'd got the potential to excel academically and do great things. I experienced the struggle of being a single mom, fleeing for my life and my 3 young children, and shunned by the community. But I was fortunate to have parents who took me in, and my younger brother, Yaz, who is here today, supported me and believed in me when I doubted myself, and I have him to thank for a lot. There was an expectation from the community that my future was bleak. I was tarnished with divorce, and no one would ever have me, but I proved them wrong in many ways. I worked full-time and studied from home to better myself so I could give my children the security and safety they needed. And I remarried, and I'd like to thank my husband, Amer, who's here today, for his ongoing support, and my son, Farouk, who's here today, who I'm so proud of. In the workplace, I faced discrimination for being a woman, having to break through the glass ceiling. And I recall on my first day in corporate banking, I was asked to make the teas and coffees by my male colleagues for them. I refused. In the end, they ended up making me coffees. And then I realised they were getting paid twice as much as me for the same work I was doing. When I raised this with my manager, he said, that's because they have finance arts qualifications and you don't. So I insisted I was enrolled, but he just laughed and said, women don't do exams. But I did get enrolled and I did pass my exams. But I remember struggling with the business law module and thinking, I don't know how on earth this is ever going to help me in my future. But surprisingly, I've used that knowledge throughout my career more than any other subject, and it's opened doors for me. With my children grown up, I decided to resume my academic studies, enrolled for the MBA. I was the oldest student, I was really nervous. And in addition to that, I faced challenges. My youngest daughter developed a long-term illness, and I would spend 2 nights on average a week at A&E, all night, or resuscitation. But I stayed focused and determined and came out with a distinction. After graduation, I joined Shamma Women's Centre. I only went there to help out for a couple of weeks. And I'm still here 14 years later, being a voice for the voiceless. I've been so blessed to be able to help women of Leicester from marginalised communities to transform their lives through advocacy, education, financial, domestic abuse, emotional support, and much more. I'm particularly proud of the strong partnership we have with the University of Leicester, with their students providing monthly law clinics, offering legal advice, form filling, and much more, to victims of abuse who don't have the language, confidence, or financial means to face their perpetrators in court, helping them keep families safe and, in some cases, save lives. Many students also benefited from our leadership roles, research opportunities, and voluntary placements with real life experience. Over the years, I've also taken on lay roles, having been a carer for my daughter at my local hospital, served on strategic boards regionally and nationally, and in an advisory capacity to academics at Oxford University and their local and clinicians at their local trust regarding mental health inequalities. In a strange way, realising my dream of going to Oxford University, I remember sitting in their common room and thinking who would have sat there and that was quite overcoming that feeling. But sadly, the inequalities that existed when I was a child and my mother experienced are still prevalent in the communities I serve today. And things like diabetes, heart disease and stroke. But I'm really proud to say Shamma has been recognised by the NHS for pioneering solutions, health solutions, simply by listening to what women have to say, with the use of voluntary health ambassadors, some of those from the students from this university. In life, I had to overcome a number of barriers, some of which you may face going into the world. Through determination and self-belief, you can overcome them. It's important that you take up opportunities that arise in your life that may not seem relevant at the time, but they can open doors in the future. As a woman of colour, I had to work harder and be smarter than my counterparts. So if you're struggling with something, just work that bit harder. It will pay off. I guarantee it will pay off. I'm often described as a good leader, and for me the secret is to use the greatness in you to bring out the greatness in others and achieve extraordinary outcomes. You're only as good as the people you lead. Everyone has a light inside them. Be that one to shine their light. And Shamma does mean light. Sincerity, honesty, and being humble are important values that my parents taught me, and I hope I've lived up to their expectations and only wish they were here today, and I have a lot to thank them for. I'd like to thank my husband, family, friends, and work colleagues over the years who've supported me to be where I am today. This award will only strengthen the already established ties we have with the university, and I look forward to contributing to its future success and the opportunity to empower many more students in their life journeys. As Mother Teresa said, I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the water to create many ripples. I do hope that I've been able to create those ripples that will help generations to come in Leicester and beyond.